Today, we will be talking about the super interesting life of Mansa Musa. He is known as the richest person ever, and we are going to find out how he achieved all this. Mansa Musa was the ruler of the Mali Empire back in the days in West Africa. But he wasn't your average ruler. This dude had so much gold, he would make Scrooge McDuck blush. Seriously, we are talking a crazy amount of gold here. He was so loaded that just him showing up somewhere would mess with the economy. Talk about influencer status. Welcome back to Epic Explorer Guys with another knowledge pack video. But it's not just about the bling with Mansa Musa. He was a big deal in the Muslim world too. In 1324, he went on a pilgrimage to Mecca, and let me tell you, it was epic. He didn't just roll up solo, he had a whole posse with him. Thousands of people, including soldiers, brainiacs, and even slaves. And he didn't pack light either. He brought so much gold along that he needed a fleet of camels just to haul it all. Imagine being that loaded. Let's talk about his early day. Time for me to hit the road and round up some camels to haul my stash of gold. But Mansa Musa wasn't just about flashing his wealth. He was also big on supporting Islam, building loads of mosques and Islamic schools. He was a real big shot, not just in his empire, but in the whole Islamic world. So, get ready for a trip back in time to the days of camel caravans, gold galore, and Islamic wisdom. Mansa Musa's life is one heck of a tale, and we're going to spill all the deets. Mansa Musa was born into a well-off family in 1280. His dad was the big cheese of the Mali Empire, which back then was one of the richest and strongest in West Africa. Now, Mansa Musa wasn't the eldest son, but he had smarts and charm for days, which made him a total favorite with his dad and the people in the empire. As a kid, he got schooled up in Islam and learned all sorts of stuff like law, history, and how to run things. He was a quick study and had loads of potential right from the get-go. Mansa Musa's road to the throne wasn't exactly a walk in the park. When his dad passed away in 1312, things got messy. The empire was all topsy-turvy, with a bunch of peeps gunning for the throne. Nobody knew who would take over after the old ruler passed away. At first, Mansa Musa's big brother got the nod, but he kind of flopped as a leader. Eventually, Mansa Musa was like, "I got this," and kicked his bro to the curb. I mean, it's not exactly winning the Brother of the Year award, but Mansa Musa did it with flair. He rounded up his crew, pulled off a slick takeover, and boom, he was the new ruler of the Mali Empire. It's like a scene straight out of a wild version of Game of Thrones, minus the weird family stuff and with way more bling. Once Mansa Musa snagged the throne, he got busy. He knew he had to beef up his power and make the empire even bigger. He was a real savvy leader. He clocked that the key to being top ruler was controlling all that gold the empire had, especially those juicy gold mines. But Mansa Musa wasn't just about flexing his muscles. He was actually a pretty cool ruler. He didn't just conquer lands, he made life better for his people. He slashed taxes, boosted education, and set up a fair legal system based on Islamic law. That brought some serious stability to the empire. So it wasn't all smooth sailing for Mansa Musa. He had his fair share of hurdles to jump over during his time ruling the roost. Rebellions were popping up left and right from people within the empire, and neighboring kingdoms were itching for a fight. But here's the thing, Mansa Musa wasn't just good with a sword. He had some serious diplomatic skills up his sleeve. He managed to talk things out and hammer out peace deals that kept the whole region chill. Overall, Mansa Musa's journey to the top was all about his smarts, charm, and leadership qualities. He wasn't afraid to roll the dice and make some bold moves to get what he wanted. But let's not forget, he had a big heart for his people too. And can we just take a second to appreciate that crown of his? So Mansa Musa's life story sounds like it's straight out of a superhero flick. His journey from kid to big shot ruler was all about ambition, skills, and a dash of mystery. He was the kind of leader who got stuff done, but he also had a soft spot for his people. And can we talk about his style? Dude looked slick while running the show. Let's break it down. Mansa Musa wasn't just loaded, he was like, I could buy a whole country and still afford a fancy coffee loaded. Some people say he was worth around $400 billion in today's cash. That's more dough than Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk put together. And let's face it, those guys ain't exactly short on cash. how he became rich. So, let's talk about how Mansa Musa got so crazy rich. First off, he had some serious trade game going on. The Mali Empire had the keys to some major trade routes, especially the ones hauling gold and salt. And you know gold? It's like the ultimate show-off move. It's like strutting around with a watch covered in diamonds, but way cooler. Mansa Musa had his fingers in loads of gold mines and could call the shots on how much bling flowed in and out of the empire. Plus, he was tight with neighboring kingdoms, which just pumped up his wealth even more. But Mansa Musa wasn't about hoarding all that gold like some dragon guarding a treasure. He was all about sharing the love. He wanted to use his riches to make life better for his people and spread the word about Islam. And that's where his epic trip to Mecca comes into play. In 1324, Mansa Musa geared up for a pilgrimage to Mecca, the holiest spot in Islam. But hold up, this wasn't your average road trip. He rolled deep with a crew of thousands, soldiers, smart cookies, and even slaves. Interestingly, he lugged along a whopping 60,000 pounds of gold. He wasn't just showing off with all that bling. So Mansa Musa wasn't stingy with his stash. He was tossing gold left and right like it was confetti. And guess what? He made prices shoot up wherever he went. Now, imagine if you or I tossed a few grand on a trip. We would pat ourselves on the back, right? But Mansa Musa wasn't into small change. He was like, hold my turban, and showered so much gold that people still call him one of history's most generous dudes. He did it all looking snazzy in his fancy robe and turban. Talk about making an entrance. Mansa Musa wasn't just showing off. He was serious about his faith. Being a devout Muslim, he wanted to spread the word about Islam using his riches. So, Mansa Musa wasn't just tossing gold coins left and right on his trip to Mecca. He was on a mission to flaunt the Mali Empire's swag. Along the way, he put up loads of mosques and hired top-notch scholars to spread the word about Islam. Plus, he dropped some serious cash on places like the University of Sankore and Timbuktu to help folks learn. But hold up, his pilgrimage wasn't just about religion and generosity. Mansa Musa rolled into Mecca with a whole entourage, like a traveling circus. Musicians, dancers, and even some people who were slaves came along for the ride. He brought along a bunch of exotic animals too, like camels and horses. He even had a posse of 80 camels just to carry his clothes. I mean, why lug your own stuff when you can have a squad of camels do it for you, right? Talk about Mansa Musa's reign. So, Mansa Musa's journey to Mecca wasn't just a fancy parade of his riches. It was like a big networking event for him. Along the way, he hooked up with other Islamic big shots like the rulers of Egypt and Arabia. They swapped gifts as a way of saying, hey, we're cool. Plus, Mansa Musa got down to business and set up some trade deals with these kingdoms, which only pumped up his wealth and street creed. Mansa Musa's flashy moves had some unexpected fallout. When he swung through Egypt, he was tossing gold around like it was candy. But guess what? It caused a major money mess. Prices shot up, the economy went haywire, and folks were scrambling to keep up. Oops. So, Mansa Musa was probably thinking, oops, my bad. But people in Egypt were likely muttering, thanks for nothing, rich dude. Despite the chaos he accidentally caused, Mansa Musa's trip to Mecca was a huge deal in West Africa's Islamic history. It spread the religion far and wide and put the Mali Empire on the global map. Plus, it made Mansa Musa famous as one of the most generous and powerful leaders of his time. After his pilgrimage, Mansa Musa's reputation as a big shot just kept on growing. Everyone in the Islamic world and beyond knew him as a major supporter of the religion, a smooth talker when it came to diplomacy, and a smart man in the business world. But Mansa Musa's wealth wasn't just a flashy badge to show off. It came with a ton of responsibilities too. He had to keep a tight grip on all that dough and navigate the tricky world of politics and money in West Africa. His rule wasn't all smooth sailing either. He had to deal with rebellions, attacks from neighboring kingdoms, and the constant threat of unrest within his own empire. But through it all, Mansa Musa stayed strong and kept the empire in check. He even managed to expand its territory and influence. On top of all that, Mansa Musa was a big supporter of Islamic culture and education. He pumped cash into building mosques and schools, and he was all about spreading the teachings of the Quran. He even made Timbuktu a hotspot for Islamic learning and culture. But let's not sugarcoat it. Mansa Musa's rule had its flaws too. Mansa Musa ruled with a firm hand, making sure Islamic laws were followed even if they were tough at times. He had a habit of showing favoritism to certain groups, especially those who had his back. But flaws aside, Mansa Musa is a big deal in African and Islamic history. He used his wealth and power to help his people and spread Islam. He had big dreams for his empire and worked hard to make them happen. He was a symbol of Africa's rich culture and still inspires folks today. Sadly, Mansa Musa's reign came to an end when he passed away in 1337. After Mansa Musa passed away, his son Mansa Maga took over the reins. But things weren't smooth sailing for him. He had to deal with rebellions and attacks from nearby kingdoms. Sadly, he wasn't quite the leader as his dad was, and the Mali Empire started to crumble under his watch. In the years following Mansa Musa's death, the empire hit a rough patch. Droughts, more rebellions, and attacks from neighbors made things even tougher. The empire's mojo faded away, and by the 16th century, it was pretty much toast as a political powerhouse. Its people got absorbed into other kingdoms nearby. But even though the Mali Empire went belly up, Mansa Musa's legacy lived on. He still inspired people in West Africa and beyond, leaving his mark on history. People still think of Mansa Musa as a smart and fair ruler who used his money and influence to help his people and spread Islam. His trip to Mecca is still talked about as one of the coolest journeys ever, and his reputation as one of the richest men ever still blows minds. Even though his time ruling ended, Mansa Musa's memory sticks around. He reminds us how awesome leadership can be, how rich Africa's culture is, and why things like being generous, good at talking, and smart are so important in history. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing our channel and hit the bell icon for more information videos to come.